Okay, admit all. Okay, now I'm gonna get everybody in. All right, now we're gonna try take two. All right. So let's see if we can get everybody in, and we're gonna do our legislative recap one more time, guys. One more time. So here we go. Okay. So I'm going to say the first person who we absolutely adored, Linda and I, right, was Doris. Go ahead, say her name. You say
Doris Kearns Goodwin.
She says it so well. Doris Kearns Goodwin. Do you see how that turned dark? What the heck happened there? And we just lost the brightness. There we go. Doris Kearns Goodwin. Can you guys hear me? Can everybody hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay, great. Thank you. All right. So Doris Kearns Goodwin is go ahead, explain who she is. She was
Pulitzer Prize winning author and presidential historian who wrote, if anyone has read the book Team of Rivals by, it's about Lincoln. It's like 900 pages, but she writes history on basically every president and their leadership style. And she was our keynote speaker. She also worked in the White House. She worked for Lyndon Johnson, and her husband was the head speechwriter for Kennedy and Johnson. So she not only told us about, what was going on, but she gave us a lot of nice inside stories about how the speeches got made and, all the inside track of all the, funny little stories.
It was so cool. But she also did a great job of kind of sharing how they were really their leadership styles were. She talked about the 4 key attributes to leaders: humility, empathy, resilience, and accountability, their core leadership traits, and how each of them had those traits and how they each took it through their presidency. And how really today, if we had those traits, how it could really help us grow,
Right.
Which was really important. And so she talked about George Washington, Thomas Jefferson, and how home ownership, even back then, that's what he believed in. So he was all about land ownership, and the GI Bill, that's how that came about. And then it came out to redlining. So that was something that we all, that was a big thing that they were fighting back in that day. And that's what led to the Fair Housing Act. So she talked all about the story and the timeline. And that Abraham Lincoln, his big thing was humility and empathy. And it highlighted his trials and tribulations and his strategy about how he possessed the confidence, which was really cool, his story, actually. And the reason that he used to go to the theater was because it gave him the moment to forget all of his troubles so that he could rebuild and have the confidence to go right back at it. So see, that's TV today, right?
Yeah. And one of the really cool things about him is he had a lot of rivals that were trying to get the nomination for president. And they didn't like him. They wanted to have nothing to do with him, but he hired them all to be in his cabinet because he wanted them all, because he thought they were great thought leaders.
Exactly. So he said to surround yourself with superior or more celebrated individuals than yourself for the good of the country.
Yeah.
So even though they thought that they were smarter than him, he maybe thought so too, but that's why he put them in his cabinet.
Right.
So that was a really cool thing about him.
And he said that he would prefer them being in his tent shooting inside the tent shooting in.
I think that was somebody else about the pitching part, but yeah.
Yeah, I didn't say that.
And then the Roosevelts, this was super interesting. This was about the resiliency and the partnership between he and his wife. I thought that was super interesting because obviously he couldn't travel around, during the New Deal as he started these new programs. It was his wife who would travel around and see if they were working. And it was all the generals that were getting all the letters from his wife. They're like, we need someone just to talk to get the correspondence to go over her correspondence. But she was the one out in the field. And actually, if it wasn't for her, women wouldn't even have been working at that time.
Right.
They're like, there's no way we'll be able to train women to make ammunitions and work in these factories. Yes, guess again.
Remember the story when they said that when they had women start working in the factories, production actually went up. And they said, why? For one reason, because they listen to instructions before they start the task.
Yeah, exactly. They actually asked, can we have instructions? Exactly. So yeah, she was a voice of the people and leaders, but she's actually but brought women into the workforce and made us a very efficient. The other thing that I thought was super interesting at that time, they also brought businesses and government together, which had
Right.
never happened
Right.
before. What was the thing about what was
Yeah, on the assembly line, they started making planes on the assembly lines, and it used, back before they did this, it would take 240 days to make one plane. After they put businesses in control of the assembly lines, they were making a plane every day during World War II.
Yeah, imagine, right? So it was very cool. They had so many stories. And then Lyndon B. Johnson, they probably had the most about, which I thought was
Yes.
interesting because she said that she had written, what was it, a paper or something
About him, yeah.
about him, but not in the positive way. And he had hired her to be part of his staff, and the paper hadn't come out yet. And she's like, maybe he didn't get it. He's going to fire me when he comes.
Yeah, he told her, I guess they were dancing together. He told her that he wanted her to be like his #1 assistant before he found out.
That's
he read
right.
this paper about him. Yeah.
But then when he read the paper, he said, now I really want you to be my #1 assistant because I want to show you why you are going to want to be my #1 assistant. So that's what was really cool. And also I thought his national, he had that, he also had her husband who wrote the speeches, but he wrote it for Lyndon B. Johnson. Remember, what was that speech that he wrote? That was so moving. That was amazing. Oh, he wrote one of his most
Great Society.
Yes,
The
he wrote
Great
the Great
Society.
Society speech for Lyndon B. Johnson,
Yeah.
which was amazing.
Yeah.
That was written by her husband. So she tells the story. It took him 4 hours to come up with the first line, which of course she quotes all of these lines. It was so incredible. So she could have talked probably for 8 hours. I would have loved to sit and listen to her. But
So, can I tell the funny story about?
go ahead.
So he would call the speechwriters over to his home, and he'd be swimming naked in the pool as he's coming up with these speeches with the speechwriters, and they're in like suits, and he's like, "Oh, come on, get in, take your suits off."
Yeah. So they have to get naked in the pool with Lyndon B. Johnson.
Guess that's how you think.
I guess free of all encumbrances. Or whatever. Yeah.
That's how we need to.
But he was a decisive leader.
Very confident.
Confident in something. But very, very interesting. So oh, and I loved what she said also before we go on FDR, about the how he started the whole parks and everything act. Actually, when that would never have happened, because when he first started, this was super interesting.
Teddy Roosevelt.
Teddy Roosevelt, sorry.
Yeah.
Teddy Roosevelt. When he first started, everyone thought he was very actually kind of brash and obnoxious, and but then he suffered several tragedies: the loss of his wife,
I
mother.
don't know what this house is at.
Same day.
What was that, Angela?
Oh, I'm sorry.
That's
I
okay.
thought I was on mute.
Yeah. No, my love. Yeah, on the same day. So he then moved out west to kind of, I guess,
Start cattle.
well, I don't think he did it for the cattle. I think it was really to heal.
Yeah.
But then he actually, because of that, it really brought through his humility, because
Right.
then he started doing, when he came back, he did positions that people felt were below him. He worked in local government, he worked as a police chief, he did things and everyone's like, why are you doing these things? But because of all that, it made him such a better leader, because that's why he looked at the parks and recreations. He never would have thought that if he didn't live out west, right? That's why he did work for and wanted to bring no matter what economic space you were in, he wanted to bring all the people together, because he did work for the police chief. He did work in the SIP department.
Right.
So it made him such a well-rounded leader more than ever. He never would have been that man if it wasn't for
Right.
all of that.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh,
Yeah.
no, we would never have the beautiful parks and natural parks that we have out west if it wasn't for Teddy Roosevelt. Amazing. So, but what she said, progress in America historically makes from the ground up, which is so true. So these were such incredible men, but nobody was available. They all had, trials and tribulations. Nobody did everything perfectly, but it was, really, really very interesting. And, she basically says, the polarization that we're seeing today, if we learn from what we did then, we could certainly get through and be stronger today. And I thought that was a really valid point that she made.
And I think he said that specifically about Lincoln, how
Yes.
all of his rivals, all the people from the
Yes.
South, that he said, we're not going to prosecute anyone. We're just going to let
That's
the
right.
country heal.
Yeah. So it was such a great way, I thought, to kick off the whole, legislative days with her
Yeah.
speech. It was
She
really
was
well done.
amazing.
Yeah, so she's written many books of leadership. You can download or you can buy from Amazon for $11.
Okay.
It's in my cart. So that in my spare time, then I plan to read it, but I don't know how thick, but
Yeah, right.
I think an Audible would be better. I don't know if you have an Audible one, 'cause I have a better chance at that, but yeah, she was absolutely amazing. I wish she would go on masterclass because it would be easier for me to do that in the car. So, but yeah, absolutely incredible woman. Anything else you want to share about her?
No, not
Yeah,
really.
she was great.
Yeah, she was just awesome. I wish she would have spoken longer.
I do
just
too.
want the speeches to be done.
Yeah,
And this one I was hoping to go on longer because
Yeah.
she was just so interesting.
If she's that good, I wonder if she is in some other event somewhere for like a whole day.
She was so good. I mean,
I know.
honestly,
She was fabulous.
fabulous.
Then I pushed my way into the 50 large for director forum. And I will tell you, it's no small feat. I went in as Budge Husky, who was not on the list. Budge said I could. He was not on the list though. And 3 people had to come out to get me in this room. I'm like, my gosh, but I finally got in. There was probably only 25 people in there. So there was a lot of names that were not there around the table. It was a closed room, obviously. But all the heads of Lawrence Yun, obviously the economist for NAR was there. Nakia Wright, who is the CEO of NAR, was there. Shannon McGee, who is the head advocacy leader, was there. John Green, who's the head legal counsel, was there. So all the people that meet and talk to the large, people of the large groups and assemblies were in that room with the 25 of us. So it was incredible. So we got to hear all of this really terrific content first and at a different, deeper level. So it was a wonderful, really great. So a lot of the content that I'm going to share with you now comes from this meeting. Now, I'm going to tell you guys, I brought my little, my awesome pocket. So a lot of this great content came from that. But I will tell you, I have so much more that I did not even put into these slides. I have so much more. I could go on, probably have days of NAR legislative content download. But this is just the overview of what we went on. But they focused on the strategy. So what Nakia spoke about, she talked about that there's inventory shortages, and that is true nationally. We don't have that situation really here in Florida, but they do have that situation nationally in many places. They talked about the legal settlements, which we're going to look at, what's happening with NAR, and the integration also with the MLSs. There's a lot of situations with what's happening in MLSs. So I met several people who are large running MLSs and large groups in Denver and Chicago. So I met a lot of those people too and spoke to them direct. So they're supporting local MLSs, but they're not getting involved, which is what NAR should be doing. NAR's not, they shouldn't be taking over these things. So what they're trying to do is facilitate conversations. They're trying to facilitate that the states can work together, the associations can work together with these MLSs, but they're not trying to do it themselves. They're not trying to put themselves at the table. They're trying to create a table, an atmosphere where people can work together, which I think is the right way to do it. So Nakia's, I think, handling this in a different way and a great way. So I was really impressed with that. So inventory legislation. So they're aggressively backing more homes on the market. And that proposes doubling the capital gains tax. So for an individual,
Taking that down.
what was that, Julia?
Sorry, thought I was muted too.
That's okay. So from 250, the individual would go to 500, and if you're a married couple, your 500 would go to 1 million. So basically, the concept is it's really more like an equity gain, because if you think about it, a lot of homeowners have had their equity locked, and they don't want to move because the capital gains is too high.
Right.
So if you haven't had this change since the 1980s, this has
Right.
been here since
Yeah.
the 1980s. But the equity has changed so incredibly over that time. So a lot of the people on the other side who are against this are trying to create this fear mongering, saying, well, what's happening is it's really for the millionaires. This is not for the millionaires. They don't even care. This is for the poor, the regular middle class and lower middle class. They're trying to take their money out that have had money out. That's who this is for. So we're trying to say it's an equity tax, not it's not for middle, for the upper level, really. It's not. So this is something that we're still working. It has not gone through yet, but we did have conversations, which I'll talk about later. We think it's going to go through. It feels, unfortunately, this is ping-ponged in the House, between the House and the Senate 4 times now. It's ping-ponged back and forth because it seems very easy and simple, but it's not. People want to shove things in there and, filibuster it and add on to it. And so it's one of those things, but this should be something that gets passed, and hopefully this month. We'll see. All right. Now, this is very exciting. This did happen. The Senate reached a compromise on the 21st Road to Housing. They voted 87-8 on the motion to proceed. And this is, now what happens is it advances the sweeping legislation package, which increases housing supply, but it also, this is more important to us, limits institutional investors from buying single family homes. So the BlackRock coming in and taking up all these homes can't happen. It's going to limit it. Now, I can't say they can't buy any, but it limits how much they can buy. So
350 homes
At a
or
time.
more as an institutional investor.
Did they go just residential, single family and duplex, or did they go?
restricts large institutional investors from purchasing single-family homes and mandates the divestment of certain homes acquired from enactment, cuts red tape from federal legislations and construction manufactured homes, and encourages municipalities to ease local zoning laws from the housing supplies. So I don't have all the exact numbers here.
They just passed it, then, so I had.
It's for
It's-
single family, 350 or more single family homes.
It's only
Only
single-family
single-family
homes.
Yeah.
We're-
Question, so this is gonna limit the REITs from coming in and buying okay.
Yes.
And that
I mean,
happened all the time when Maria and I were there. So they would have inventory left at the end of the year instead of reducing the price for individual people. They
Yeah.
would just sell
Sell it
everything
all.
up and then sell a really low price. That keeps the price high for all the individuals. So this is a great law to
Yeah.
help it make more affordability for individual buyers.
Yeah.
How are they defining it on, they say, just saying this is the number, or can Bob walk in and he could still buy 350 homes?
It
Or
says
say-
the investor restriction generally applies to large investors controlling 350 or more single family
So
homes.
it's by the number.
Yeah, by the number that they're purchasing, not by the, yeah.
Okay.
Mhm.
Okay.
Yeah. Angela, did you have another question on that?
No, ma'am, because it would be the ones that own. Now, when you say more than 350, is that total or just in one state? Or how is,
It
only
says-
because a lot of our properties sometimes we'll get these ridiculous things coming in to buy them. I'll ask more questions when she puts out the notice and more stuff on this. Thank
Okay.
you.
No problem. Also, next steps. So the legislation's going quickly, but the Senate has to finish their final considerations, and it's going to head to the House of Representatives one more time before it goes to Trump.
So they make that.
So it's not complete yet. So
But it
this,
looks like it's going.
but it
through.
looks like it's
Yeah.
going through. So this has gone back and forth, but this was signed while we were there.
Yes.
Yes.
Yay.
Yeah, this is huge.
Yeah, we got to watch them
Yeah,
vote on the floor. We
yeah.
actually went up and we were
We
watching.
got to
Rick
sit in the
Scott vote.
Senate and we got to
Yeah.
hear Rick Scott vote. It was very cool. Yep. Okay, and this is actually the old Senate building. Actually, this is my picture. And then, so the legal and regulatory landscape. So a couple things are the settlement timeline for the 418 million, that's for the Setzer Burnett. That structure includes a broad release for most brokerages. We all know we're not part of that. Final approval is anticipated for late 2024, and the first payment likely triggers in early 2027. So that's the first part of that. So that again does not cover anywhere. It doesn't cover, I think it was, what's that other, Century 21? There's a couple of them, larger ones that did their own. There's 3 of them that
Mhm.
made their own settlements outside. Our settlement was actually quite good. However, some large brokers, that's why a lot of brokers are not happy. right? Because of the way this was handled, a lot of brokers are not happy with how that went down. Litigation strategy. So now NAR is successfully defending against three-way agreement in MLS cases, and they've gotten several dismissals to date. And they're also protecting against the brand because there's new internal brand protection team that has been set up to go against the trademark media. So out of the 1,500 articles monitored year to date, 22 instances have been improper use. They were identified and corrected. Now, here's another interesting case. This Tukori homebuyer lawsuit, NAR helped reach a settlement of $52.25 million. NAR did not have to participate in this case. NAR was not cited in this case. This is what's interesting. I did not realize that. NAR agreed to help settle this case. This was a homebuyer case, and they stepped in to help. This is what's happening. They want to help protect because they feel, or they realize that many people feel, let's be honest, that they were kind of hung out to dry, right? So they have now, they were not originally named as a defendant. They opted in to secure a broader legal protection. That's what they did. So they are going in and they will help not only cover this, but they're also helping pay for it. They're paying the $52 million. Now, what they have, again, it's not completely done, but what it looks like it will be finalized if approved is that this will be $52.25 million as the settlement, and it will not begin, it'll be backloaded. So that means that the settlement payments will not begin until the final settlements of the Sitzer Burnett has finished. So we finish paying for Sitzer Burnett, and then we start paying payments on this one. Just follow me? And the reason NAR is doing that is because they're trying to protect now all of the realtor members. So that's the concept with that. And that's why they went in and chose to do that. So NAR realizes advocacy and the fact that all realtors are trying to still protect. So this was important and interesting that they did that.
So the concept is they felt that even though they were volunteering to pay, so obviously that's our dues money, that in the long run,
It will protect everybody.
Smaller dollar amount by.
Yeah, because
Voice now.
yeah, because if we leave it to other people, it opens the doors broader and wider for more lawsuits versus getting in now, closing the door, stopping more lawsuits from occurring.
Smaller dollar amount.
Right. Yeah, closing the door and ending it quicker.
Because it would have.
Oh yeah, this is gonna, if you don't help and shut this down, it's just gonna continue and there'll be more and more lawsuits and then eventually it'll work its way back and be a lot more.
Lawsuits in the future.
Because it's, basically, what are they,
Precedents?
case precedents. Thank you. Exactly. Okay, so here's Lawrence Yoon. So here's our market forecast. So he noted several things. He said, while the stock market is at all-time highs, the 10-year treasury remains elevated, keeping mortgage rates about 6.5%. So he projects a 4% increase in unit sales. The 2024 demand, though, you still have the pent-up demand from buyers tired of waiting, so he doesn't feel that they won't keep buying. He did say a couple of other interesting things. This is a downgrade from what he initially thought. He initially thought that it wasn't going to be a 4% increase in unit sales. He thought it was going to be like 6 or 8. I mean, he was much higher. And then he had initially thought that interest rates would be about 5%, if you guys remember that.
Yeah.
And it was for about 2 seconds. And then, obviously with the conflict, it shot right back up. So he has revised his thinking, revised his units, revised. The other thing, which is interesting, which we're going to talk about the new Fed chair, he has an interesting view on AI, and he doesn't seem to have any intentions of lowering interest rates. So for a couple number of reasons, which we'll talk about, but that is another reason he has adjusted his rates
Is
down.
that for 2026 or 2027?
This is for 2026.
Okay, 24 obviously. So
No, unit sales for the 2024 pent-up demand. So there's been demand from 24. Yeah, because 2024 is when the things changed, right? So people have been waiting since 2024 to buy.
6.
Yeah. So for 2026, the whole concept was rates are going to finally come down to the fives. We're going to have this massive increase in units was his thought initially, right? So suddenly they're going to have, so that's why we're going to have like, I think it was like
Couple years.
6 or 8% increase. I don't remember the initial fine, but it was high. Budget didn't agree with them, but it was going to be really high because of this of pent up demand from 2024, because remember, that's when rates started to really increase. But then of course, it dropped for 2 seconds. And then, so now he says, well, I was right for a day and now I'm wrong again. So that's pretty much what happened there. Yeah, exactly. Okay. This is very interesting. And we all need to be very well aware of this. I don't know how many of you know about the millionaire tax. It is in 7 states right now. So it's Maine, Massachusetts, Washington, Rhode Island, California, New York, and Oregon. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. There you go. Yeah. So this is very interesting. And why we need to pay attention to the millionaire tax is several reasons. One big reason is because guess where they're going to go? Florida. Yes. So you all saw my wealth migration chart. One of the reasons that they're all coming, and all of these states, if you remember, these were all states that they were coming from. And this is only going to continue to increase with this millionaire tax. So basically, high income earners, billionaires, luxury property owners, and second home buyer owners are all being targeted for new taxes. And they all have varying criteria, levels, and how they're doing it. But with this new millionaire tax being, and I'll tell you, they all spoke about it. Brokers who are in the room from these states were all seriously concerned about this millionaire tax. And for good reason, right? So now you can see the green state is enacted millionaire wealth tax. So Maine, Massachusetts, Washington, Rhode Island, and the ones that are the orange are considering the millionaire's wealth tax, California, New York, Oregon, and others, meaning that they have not been fully instituted yet. So only the green ones have already had them in place. The orange ones are talking about them. They're being currently put into place. They haven't even, like Mandani has been talking about it, but it has not finalized yet. And, you've got businesses already leaving. So imagine, and once he institutes that, it's going to be interesting because who's going to be left to pay the bill? That's the interesting part. I mean, I was really surprised when I went there to go see NYU, how nice a lot of the city has become, not by him because he just got in office, right? But that's going to take money to continue.
Right.
And he's promised a lot of really big things to the people. So I understand why he needs it. But guess what? When they leave, who's going to pay it?
Right.
So he better have an alternate. But also, he doesn't own a home. So yeah, I don't know if you know that. Mandani does not. He's not a homeowner. So yeah. So he won't affect him, right? So that millionaire tax. So
He's got to stand out. So
exactly. Yeah, he's one of the ones who's like, who's going to pay for me to live? Yeah, exactly. So interesting. But at any rate, so these are things. So the trend reflects the growing efforts to fund public programs through higher taxes. And it's for the affluent individuals. But really, let's talk about it. It's not just affluent, it's professionals. It's people who want to invest in property, right? Because if you want to buy a business, if you want to buy a commercial building, it doesn't necessarily mean you're a millionaire or a billionaire. It means that this is your business. It means that that's what you want to own an investment property, right? That is cash flow, right? So it doesn't mean that you're a playboy and you have multiple properties and you just go visit it at. That's not what it's for. It could be affecting a millionaire. Doesn't mean much.
No.
Exactly.
It's not, it's technically a millionaire.
Yeah, no.
Where's that gonna get you?
Well, actually,
on that
just
perspective?
a millionaire, just 1 million is nothing.
No,
Exactly. So exactly right. So this is the thing. So we have to really pay attention to this because this is going to be good social media stuff for us. We have to be careful how we use it, what we say about it. Never quote. I think we just follow it. We need to know what states are doing it. Stay neutral about it, but post about theirs right alongside with our property taxes because we're going to be voting, right?
Right.
We're voting to get, really help our homeowners pay less.
Right.
They're voting to make their homeowners pay more.
Right.
4-year.
You know, just say Florida versus New York, Florida versus California. Homeowners voting to pay more, homeowners voting to pay less. Quite, right? I mean, we don't have to say anything more than that.
Coming for your moratorium, gotta be here before.
Yes, yes, because that moratorium takes place before November. So if you want to be here, and nobody knows about that, guys. So you have to put all that kind of information out. Now, they won't have a moratorium in California and New York. So these are fun, great, but you have to be very careful because
Right.
yeah, this is gonna have to, you know, it's not a slippery slope, but it's really important and you have to do it very delicately.
Did they talk at all about
Mm.
third category of other states that might be
No.
toying with the idea?
No,
Because that's not many states that are, there's a lot of states there that.
No.
do that, right?
they have not.
Okay.
Nope.
Any stats for the percentage of millionaires that have already decided to
Leave.
leave?
I mean, I have the wealth migration chart, but I don't know why. Like, it didn't say this is left because of, you know, no, I don't have that. But I do have the wealth migration chart that shows people are moving and the percentage that who's coming to Florida. Made Florida number one. By the Nikkei, we're number one movement. And that's from Japan. They're calling us the number one state where people are moving. So thank you, Nikkei. So yeah, I mean, I could tell you that, but I can't say.
Hard to-
Yeah, that's lifestyle. And I mean, when you look at lifestyle, there's a bunch of things. And part of that is the cost of living, right?
Right.
And our homes aren't cheap anymore. So there's a couple things that we look at that, right? You got to look at the quality of life as well as property taxes, as well as, so there's a bunch of things, right? So. Right. But like Tennessee's probably cheaper, right? North Carolina may be, depends where you are in North Carolina, you know. Okay, AI and real estate. So this also came up a lot. So NAR is investigating how AI plays tools for agents, training, development, but also for policymakers, for brokers, for achieving economies of scale, but also we have to look at it for having AI policies in place.
Right.
Because we have to be very careful to make sure that we're using it properly.
Mhm.
I mean, even when I do my slides, these slides are great, aren't they? I have to check them as data, make sure that it's accurate. I put the data in. If you don't put the data in and you expect them to put the data in, that's wrong. You know, because I said, give me some information on this. And it was great, but it was wrong data. I was like, that's
Yeah.
nice, but now use this data because that data is
Right.
incorrect.
Right.
I said, you know, you just have to say, give me the, you know, quote or tell me where that data came from. And then they can't. Oh, well, it's just an idea. No, you know, it's wrong, right? So you have to be very careful with AI. So it's a great tool, but know its limitations. It's simply a tool. Now, maybe in the future, which is even scarier, right? But right now it is definitely a tool. Right. Yep. You definitely can't trust AI. That's exactly right, Angela. So Federal Reserve sentiment, there's a growing belief within the Fed that AI-driven worker productivity will lower inflationary pressure, potentially leading to earlier interest rate cuts. And who is thinking that but our new Fed chair? So the new Fed chair, he is a big believer in AI. He is huge on AI. He thinks that the power of AI will drive productivity and growth. And he thinks that it will transform the debt with within the government through AI because it'll make us so much more efficient and effective, and that will help grow the GDP, which will help reduce the deficit. That's his belief. So that will, once you increase the GDP and you decrease the deficit, that will help bring down naturally the inflation. So the pressure on the inflation will come down naturally by increasing the GDP and decreasing the deficit. And that's why he doesn't like the idea of manually bringing down the inflationary rate. You see, that's his concept. So that's why Kevin Warsh, our new Fed chair, is a huge AI proponent, and he does not support lowering interest rates. That's from Lawrence Yun. Interesting, right? Did anyone know that? I got all this from the 50 large broker thing. So informative. Notice he didn't say that in the general session. Yeah.
No, Carrie gets the inside scoop because she goes to different sessions.
Because I have to go in as Budge Husky. Well, I did go in, there was another broker session too, and they did talk about some of this stuff, but not as in
Yes,
depth.
not as.
Yeah.
That's a very, very closed door.
This was,
Yeah.
yeah. Thank you, Budge. It was great. Yeah, it was so great. Okay, this was really great too. They spoke on this. The condo financing changes. I don't know how many of you are aware of this, but and the head of Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac, the one who works with them through our NAR association was there as well, who deals with Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac all the time. This was very interesting. So there's a new 15% reserve contribution minimum now. It used to be 10%, now it's 15%. I don't know if you guys are aware. Not that we deal a ton with this, but this is important to know. So this new reserve requirement happened in January of 2027. But again, because we don't do too much with this, I didn't really bring it up because it hasn't affected us. But because it came up a lot during that meeting, I thought I better bring it up. So because of that, there's been stricter reserve studies. And with that, there are now full reviews required. So there's expanded waiver eligibility though, and they have removed the investor recap. So you don't have the 50% investors anymore. However, because of this, they're now trying to get, because there's this inventory shortage in other places, this has become a place they're looking to say, can they work with this to try to lessen some of this, because now you've increased these restrictions, right? And you've increased, but now we're trying to get more housing for other people. Is there something you could do? And of course, Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac are like, no. So this is why there was a big discussion on this, because there's some good parts to this. If you ask me, I agree that the reserves should be higher. I mean, that's a good thing. I don't think there's a bad thing, but the full review, and that's, I think, where the people are having problems, because it's hard to get people to respond. So the timing is so long, and getting information back is a problem. And so it's kind of a double-edged sword, right? But again, we don't have, and forget about, like, they said, is there any way you can get things approved for FHA? VA. You cannot get buildings approved for VA. That's like near impossible. So, the woman who's in charge, she's like, yeah, we can forget about that. That's it's not gonna happen. Even FHA, they're so backed up right now, you can barely get in touch with them. So it's it is what it is. It's probably not a solution.
This is what Mike was talking about in the one meeting.
He mentions it a little bit. He touched on it. And so I didn't go into it because again, we don't have a lot, but
He probably delve into it more.
if anybody needs to, you can talk to Mike for sure. But it did come up a lot there because again, this was national. Well, this was national. We had a lot of people. Actually, there was a guy that I know from the Florida big brokers. He's from South Florida. And so this was a big issue for them. But anyway, I did want to bring it up though. So
Because it may come up more in sixth family.
yeah.
May spread.
Okay, this was super great. Senator Rick Scott. We got to see.
Explain why you looked at me.
No. So the legislative meetings, we got a great opportunity through Senator Rick Scott's office. We had an opportunity to go visit the Capitol, right? And it was a Capitol tour, which we were doing the day before our Hill visits. So Cliff, there he is, Cliff Long, our illustrious CEO leader. He was emphatic that we had to dress casually, which, I hate doing for this type of thing. And I was like, no, I want to wear my suit that I have been wearing suits all week or dress. And he's like, no, you have to dress casually. We're going to go to the Lincoln Memorial and the Jefferson Memorial. So fine, we all changed into casual. So we go have this most amazing Capitol tour set up through their office,
Yeah,
right?
we actually had 3 guides that took us through.
So
And
awesome.
we got to go in the tunnels with,
Yes.
in between the Senate and the House.
Yes.
It was really cool.
It was so awesome. Yeah, they have only from the Senate side. If you come from the Senate side, underneath the ground, they have a train, like a subway that takes you over to get to the other building. So awesome.
Yeah,
We
it
got
was
to do
amazing.
that. And then there's such a great tour. That was an incredible tour. So much better than the regular tour. Oh my
Right.
God. It was amazing. And then we got to go up into the Senate, listen to Rick Scott vote, right?
Yes,
that
was
was
really
so cool. Then we came back down to the office, went back through the train, went back over to his office, and then we meet Rick Scott.
There he was.
And we had a great conversation. We got to talk to him about what he voted on. We got to talk to him.
I know. look
and
at us.
our casual clothes. It was so embarrassing. I'm like, of course. Now I've talked to Riscott before, which has been great. He is a great guy. And he is really not, he is so in touch with what's going on in Florida. He really is. We spoke a lot about both of the bills, the housing bills, which was really
Right.
great. And, he really feels that they're both going to go through.
Yeah, he did.
The capital
He was very
gains as well.
positive,
Yeah, he
yeah.
was very positive about all of it, which was great. And it was actually that night that
Yeah,
the one went
legislation
through,
went
which
through.
was great. They were there till 4 a.m, actually, that legislation went through. Yeah, 4 a.m. It's crazy. So we
Mhm.
got to wake up the next day and find out that it went through, which was really cool. But yeah, it was amazing. But not that we're still waiting on the capital gains. I don't think that's gone through yet. I haven't heard from Trey. Has it gone through?
I don't think
I don't
so.
think so.
No.
But at any rate, so but that's why we're dressed casually. So yeah, but
Much more aggressive than you guys. So you guys look good.
well,
Not really, but thank you, Maria.
well, more than the guys that were in Captain America.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. I didn't.
Yes, but yeah. So, but it was very that's the thing. You go to these meetings. So we also met. I went to Corey Mills' office with Claire, and that was great. So the Corey Mills, he was unfortunately not there. The other thing is, when we were there, the House was not in session. Only the Senate was in session. The House had already finished. So Corey Mills, we got to speak to his aide, who was great.
But we met Corey Mills last year.
We met him last year,
Yeah.
yeah. But we got to meet his aide, which is great because let's face it, their aides actually are the ones that tell them all the information anyway. And it was great. Were you there at the Corey Mills?
No, not the one.
Oh, you
this one.
left,
No, I
yeah.
left early, yeah, for me.
But it was great because one of the other things that we're talking about is helping the basically revitalize downtowns and community areas, which is a big thing I'm a big proponent on. Do I have that in my next one? I don't know, but no, not there. Okay. So, but that is where something I've been talking about. For example, I think I shared with you guys that there's 7 schools here in our area that have been are being shut down. And my thought is to turn that into housing, right? For teachers and firefighters and policemen, higher and better use, right? That kind of a thing. So I got to actually speak to the aide and give him the idea of that, as a story here in Florida, their district, and he didn't know anything about that. He's like, oh my God, this is an amazing idea. So that's something that he can bring to Corey Mills and share that. So that's the point. When you go, it's not, they can read, right? They have the legislative issues. They can read that. Our job is to bring what's happening locally, a story about it. He was not aware that 7 schools have closed down here and what the idea of bringing, housing for teachers. And because face it, it's very hard to get housing for teachers here. They don't make that much money. Where the hell are they going to live, right? And police officers, they have to live within their district. And, how do you do that if you can't afford to stay here? So what happens is a lot of the police officers, they go and actually change jobs and go work for the sheriff's office because they get paid more. So it's very hard to keep police officers. So those are the kinds of things. If we give them housing that's more affordable because we already own the buildings and we already, that's a great way to do it. And then the schools can still maintain the ownership of the land, right? They can do it through a land trust. It's a great way to be able to do that. So he's like, that's a great idea. Why not? We have other buildings that we could do that with too, that are post offices. Do we need all those post offices?
Local guy said they're working on it, but it never got up to someone who could have actually.
Exactly.
Some-
Yeah, exactly. So that was great. So even if you don't have the opportunity to meet with the actual legislators, sometimes it's actually better to meet with the aide who took all the notes, who can now share it with Corey Mills,
You'll listen to him.
and he will listen to him more, and he can say, oh, that's a really good idea. We can, maybe run with that. Yeah, so when he's on the Senate floor and they're talking about it, he can bring that up, right? So that's what's cool about that. So that was the part there. Okay. Then this is another big thing that we talked about, insurance costs. And this is really important. We all know that the insurance costs have risen tremendously. And I got these stats from a report that the NAR sent out during your meeting that you sat in with Mercedes, and she sent that report out.
Yeah.
So obviously they've become one of the most volatile parts for home ownership, especially not for really just first-time homeowners, for anybody. It's probably one of the largest costs of, that we all pay. And actually, Florida and Colorado, because we tie our escrow payments to insurance and property taxes, 70% increase since 2019, the insurance cost. Is that insane? 70%, guys. So in Florida, though, I just want you to see this. We have had reform since 22 and 23, and this is because Florida realtors, we have been going after them every time we go up to Tallahassee and guard, and this is what we've been fighting, and this is what Governor DeSantis has done, eliminating one-way attorney fee provisions and curbing assignments of benefit use, because that's what happened. The attorneys, remember, that's
Yeah.
exactly, the roofers would go around and knock on your door.
Yeah.
And they say, hey, do you need a new roof? Well, we can get an attorney to come out. And, that whole thing, it was just a big scam.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. So that has really been helping to bring down. So since 2026, the report says that, obviously, when this is true, when we found this out in Tallahassee as well, we've had, I think now, was it up to 9 more? I think it's 9, don't quote me.
Oh, insurance
And
companies?
more
Yeah,
insurance
yeah, right.
companies come back to our
Right.
state.
Right.
And the more insurance companies that come back to our state, the more competition that we get. Have we actually seen a huge reduction in costs? Not yet, but that takes time.
It is working on the auto insurance. I just got a check from USAA on my auto insurance back.
Oh, cool.
Well, I can only hope to get one myself from State Farm,
Would be
but
nice. And actually, they've done the reduction. They're starting. to
Really?
pay A check for the last 5 years because of these changes.
well, I'm gonna hope and pray I get one because mine is ridiculous. But yeah, but it is.
That's just the way you drive, Maria. That's
Yeah,
backwards.
you have one. Jesus, that's a good.
We drove back from Tallahassee with her. That was
It's true.
That's-
She's getting one. We should all
I
get
know.
one. That's a good point. Absolutely. Let's all keep going. Okay. Data centers is another big thing that we all talked about. So data centers is a huge, well, it's a double-edged sword as well, because all the states want them, but do all the states want them?
Right.
They want them, but do they want them, right?
Right.
So because of the AI boom, right, everybody accelerating the demand for the infrastructures for these data centers. And so what happens is you have a big situation. They need a lot of power, they need water, they need land, and they have a huge economic impact. So the impact is what brings incentives and utility monies and all this stuff, right? So that's why they want them. But the water, they're so hot, right? So they're looking at nuclear ways, so the nuclear power maybe to help use it for the efficiency of it. That's
Right.
possible. That's one thing they're looking at. They're looking at maybe putting them underwater in some areas to cool them. That's well, they're looking at them here as well. So these are the things, but the problem is, like in Texas, they're putting them in places by actual people's communities. And so that's a horrible thing. So Florida is very, concerned about this as well. We want to make sure that we don't put them anywhere near communities and things like that. But it's a real issue because they're wanted, but they're not, right?
Right.
It's a double-edged sword. So this is a big thing that everyone's talking about. It's on everyone's radar. We understand the need for them, but we understand the problems that they bring. So there's a lot of minds talking about how can we do this effectively, safely, with the most security for the people, but still be able to give the technology that we need and bring the dollars that we want, right? So this is a part of the conversation. So I guarantee when we go to Florida Realtors in August, this is going to be probably more of the conversation as well. But this is definitely part of what we were talking about, the data centers. So I think that might be my last. Yep, that's my last slide.
They talk all issues at all in any of the states? I know it's a national meeting.
No.
Sometimes they
None of the states that I went to, we talked about. I'm going to stop my share here. None of the states that we spoke about talked about
subject there.
water or anything like that. But we talked about a lot of other things I could tell you, but those were probably the biggest issues. What do you want to share, Linda?
So the one I went to that you didn't go to was realtor safety.
Oh, yes.
So I just wanted to bring up a few topics with the realtor safety. So a couple things they're doing is they're trying to get a lot of the Stellar MLS boards, or not just Stellar, but MLS boards, to implement another safety, just like we had the forewarn, but it's called Tether, where you actually, when you at an open house or it's showing, you actually can alert police right away if they're in an unsafe situation. So it stays with you all the time. So they were saying that it's great if with forewarn, because you can check people out ahead of time. But if you don't know the people and they're walking into an open house, then it could be a security risk. So I think that was really good. They're going to try to get individual boards to start using this, and the people from Tether came and talked about it.
Is that
Yeah.
kind of like when you can activate that thing when you're showing that you?
Yeah, it's like an alert.
You-
Yeah, so if you push the button, the police will come.
Oh, okay, so it's a
It's-
faster.
it's
thing than
right.
We have right now.
Yes, so if that just goes like to a data center, the one they have goes directly to police. So you hit it, it goes police and they can come. And the other thing he brought up was they're gonna try to implement, and this is not law yet, but they're gonna bring it forward, that just like with a police, if you're not in your police outfit and someone hits you, then it's a misdemeanor. But if you're wearing your uniform, then someone hits you, it's a felony.
Right.
So what they're gonna try to do is with realtors, the same thing. So if someone assaults a realtor when they're doing their job, then it would be a higher level crime. So that
That's
would be
good.
more protection for realtors.
That's good too.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
They'll make realtors dress up at work, maybe?
Oh, we can only hope. Does anybody have any questions? I mean, I have so many more notes. And so what we're going to be doing from the government affairs side, so we're going to be putting together everyone's notes and putting together like a flip book of stuff that we covered. But does anybody have any more, any questions or anything?
That was a fantastic presentation. Thank you.
Thank you. Mhm.
They also talked in the realtor safety about the scams, so we can send that out via email, but one of the big scams now is not just the Zoom link, but nationwide, they're having people try to sell property that does not belong
Yeah.
to them.
That's
So
happening all
they
the
will
time.
call realtors, say, I want to sell this piece of land. They
It
have
just
it like an
happened with Teresa.
LLC. So this happens, I mean,
Mhm.
throughout the United States, one of the most common scams. So they're saying if you have something like that and someone's trying to list a property that is not theirs, you should put it in MLS and have it set up like as an alert. This is not property that belongs to this person. So you don't take
We
it
have to
completely
check
off.
with
Yeah.
Stellar to see if Stellar would allow. that.
Yeah, so in some states, they allow them to put like a alert for that property, say, hey, this property was listed, it doesn't belong to this person, please do check to make sure it actually belongs to this
I
person.
can check with Stellar to see
Yeah.
if they'll allow for that. That's a good suggestion.
That way it doesn't keep happening for the same
Mhm.
A
property.
lot of our counties are actually allowing county by county for you to do like a lifelock concept on your land now.
Yeah.
So that the deed can't be transferred.
Yeah.
Because people who don't have.
Yeah, so that's
Well,
another thing
you
they
can
brought up.
lock your
Yes.
deed. You can lock a deed. It doesn't have to be a house. You can lock any
Right.
deed. Yeah.
But they're each counties, they're starting to do that now.
Yeah, and they would
Because
alert the
it's-
person that actually owns the property. Yeah, they
because
mentioned
vacant
that.
Land, people don't, not there.
Right,
Yeah.
right.
They still want the
Terrible.
house to be built.
Yeah, yeah, right, exactly. Dawn, did you have something? Maybe not. All right, guys. Well, thank you all for joining, and I hope you all got something from today. Have a great rest of your day.
Right?
Thank you.